Hello, Ram55 here, and thanks for tuning in. Tonight we're back on my Tidewater Railroad. This is episode number 20, session number 20. Hope you guys have been enjoying it so far. I've enjoyed running the trains. It's been a little while since I've been with you guys, so thanks for your patience. But as you can see by the video right here, I've had some issues. I've got that ugly border on the top and bottom. First of all, when I first recorded this session, doing all the things I normally do, it didn't record. I had to reset the whole thing and do it all over again. And this time it slipped into windowed mode, so I've got those ugly bars at the top and bottom. And I was getting a little bit frustrated, and I really didn't want to do it over again, so sorry for that obnoxious border there. So tonight is the last manifest train out of Chicago coming into Tidewater on its way to Detroit. You can see he's busting the speed limit as he enters the yard here, so he'll have to do some explaining to the boss, I guess. But he'll be hitting the brakes and slowing down to the 15-mile-an-hour yard limit. So this train is basically making a little side stop here in Tidewater. He'll be dropping off a cut of cars, some of which will be staying here in Tidewater for local deliveries, and some will be interchanged with a Canadian National up in River Point. All right, he's got his speed under control, and ironically, now that he's in the yard, the speed limit went up to 25. So many things I have to fine-tune on this yard, eh? So this is a view from the engine house as he traverses into the inbound track. So he'll pull through far enough that the cars that are going to continue on to Detroit will be just short of this lead here. That way, when he drops off these cars that will be staying here at Tidewater, latches onto the cars that are going to be picked up here and taken on to Detroit, he won't have to back up as far to lash up with the rest of his train. So even though I've changed my operations a little bit throughout this first day, ultimately I think there's going to be a total of 6 manifest trains. There's going to be 4 down here in Tidewater and 2 up at River Point. The first train of the day on one of my first videos was actually a unit train. It was bringing grain hoppers in, and nothing but grain hoppers. So I decided that I didn't like that concept. It's just too long to fill up the yard and get the railroad cars to the industries that are waiting for products, or empty cars to get their products out. So I've decided to go with purely manifest trains. So they're going to be bringing a little bit of everything in with them. And I like the way that worked. As you can see over there on the right, the yard is filled up with some cars waiting to be delivered. And you got to remember that this railroad is a living, breathing entity. It's not static. These cars are always being shuffled around. They're being brought in now from Chicago. They're going to be dropped off at the local industries, heading up to River Point. Some of these cars are going to be grabbed onto and taken over to Detroit. So these things are always being shuffled. It is never the same. And that's what I really like about railroading. It's about doing the job, getting the job done. Call me boring, call me unimaginative, but I could probably watch this stuff all day long. How many of you guys also like to watch construction work getting done? Whether they're building a new building, putting up a house, doing some road construction, or whatever. I've always enjoyed doing that as well. So how's everybody been doing? Everybody all right? We here in Michigan, and I'm sure all around the Midwest anyways, have had a terrible heat wave. been very hot and very dry. I can't remember the last time we've actually had a good rain. So my backyard is about the color of straw. And I think if you threw a little match out there, it would instantly burst into flames. But anyways, I hope you guys are all doing well. So now he's pulled up far enough. He's uncoupled the cars that will be dropped off here on the drop-off track, which is the second track on the yard there. It's completely empty, which we keep it empty. The inbound and the drop-off are cleared as quickly as possible so the next train can come in and do its business. So I think it's David driving this locomotive. He's going to take this cut of cars, drop them off on the second track. He'll pick up the cut of cars going east, which is the third track, and then hook those up to the cars that are waiting for him on the inbound track, and then proceed east to Detroit. And soon after he's gone, the local switchers are going to come in and move these cars around to free up that drop-off track so that they're not clogged up for the next train. But this is the last train of the day, so they've actually got plenty of time to do that. But say it was early in the morning, they want to get those cars off of that track as quickly as possible so the next manifest train has room to drop their own cars off. And as I've noted before in my previous videos, this is a work in progress. My initial vision was a dedicated hopper train for grain and a dedicated tanker train for petroleum products. But to do that, it just took too long. I found it was taking too long to get the cars down to the industry so that they can do their job. They're waiting for products to come in so they can do their construction stuff, and empty cars to come in so they can load their products out, and then they get shuffled around the country on the railroad. And it was just taking too long. So every train I have now coming into the Tidewater Railroad, whether it's here or up at River Point, is going to be a manifest train. So there's a little something for everybody. They can all get into the action quicker. And the nice thing about that, it also fills up the yard quicker too. You'll see a variety of cars on the train. I try to have very few be the same. That's subject to change, obviously. There's a spreadsheet that I use with random number generators to determine which cars are put on the train. But there will be some repeats, particularly for the home road. There's fewer CSX hoppers, for instance, than there are all the other railroads that I have to choose from. And I want the majority of the cars on a particular train to be from the home road. So CSX, I want them to have mostly CSX cars. Same thing for Norfolk Southern and Canadian National up to the north. So because of that, there will be some duplicates of the home road. But most of the other cars, there's enough variety there that there shouldn't be too many duplicates. Makes it a lot more realistic looking. Plus, it's kind of cool to see all the different graffiti that there is on the side of these things. Do you ever wonder the people who paint these things, where they get the time to do that? I mean, some of these things are works of art. It must take a long time. And you know probably as well as I do that the railroads don't like folks trespassing on their property. So they had to go in there for a pretty extended period of time with the possibility of being arrested for trespassing, like that cat on the door there. I love that one. That took some time to do, and some of these are really brilliant works of art. Makes you wonder, does the railroad kind of turn a blind eye to that because they are encouraging it? I don't know. I was visiting my daughter once in the Detroit area, and the CSX railroad runs not too far from their house, and I was riding my bike there one evening and went over to watch some operations at a small intermodal yard they have there. And I wasn't even on their property. I was close to it, but on public property. And immediately, the railroad folks came over and warned me about coming in and trespassing on their property. They do not like trespassers, probably for a liability thing. So now if Dave's pulled far enough forward, he's cleared the switch, he'll back up and grab onto the cars on track number 3, which is that grain car to the far right there. Those cars, I think, were the first cars brought in way early this morning on the CSX grain train. They came in empty, they're going out full. So the local switcher went up there, grabbed those cars that were loaded up at Tidewater Mills and Frank's Co-op, brought the full grain cars, and they've been sitting here in the yard waiting for pickup from the CSX train to take them back east to Detroit and all places east. So who knows, New York, Boston, Pennsylvania, Ohio. Now these grain cars are full, so they are heavy. So it's going to take a lot more power for Dave to get this cut rolling. Initially, when he pulled forward to back in the cars that were staying here at Tidewater, he used the tracks on the left that kind of go up toward River Point as the yard lead. That kept the main clear. If he did that this time, he wouldn't be able to back up far enough. Once the cars that he's pulling now connected to the train that's waiting for him on the inbound track, he would still be crossing the points where he would need to turn off and go toward Detroit. So because of that, he's actually thrown the switch. He'll be crossing over onto the main. That way it'll be easy for him to back up and just pull forward when the train is lashed together again. You can see that little dip in the track there that they're going through right now, and I kind of like it. It adds a little character to the yard, as long as it's not too excessive. So that first track in the foreground there, that's the main. So if there's a train coming through that doesn't have to stop here at Tidewater, it's going to keep right on going right there. The second track over, where that tanker car is, that's the inbound track. So the trains coming in from either the west or the east use that track. And the next one over is the drop-off track. So any cars that are being cut out of their manifest train and left here at Tidewater go on that track. And then the next track over, which is where he just pulled these grain cars out of, are all the cars going east toward Detroit. And then the fourth track, the next one over, is all cars going west toward Chicago. There's a couple more tracks in there depending on whether they're being switched locally or they're destined for River Point up to the north. So it's a way to keep the cars separated. You can never have enough sorting tracks when you're in a yard. Makes for interesting switching when you don't have quite enough and you shuffle the cars back and forth, but it makes for a longer day of switching too. Railroads like to keep things nice and simple. The fewer moves, the better. Saves them money, and it's all about money, right? So now Dave is backing his cut of cars that he just picked up. He'll latch back up to the rest of his consist that he left on the inbound track. I think the goal is to make connections at 3 miles an hour or less. Otherwise, you put too much strain on the knuckles, particularly when you got a big old train like this one. I mean, it's got a lot of mass, a lot of momentum. It ain't going anywhere when you hit it. So I can't imagine what the shock is to those knuckles and couplers. You can see that guy in the green shirt in the foreground on the right there is carrying a flashlight. He's got that ridiculous looking cone of light. And just behind them is a street light casting a round circle of light on the ground. But as you can see, it's not really lighting up the ground. It's not lighting up the scenery. It's just a white disc, probably a little translucent, maybe, on top of the scenery. You would think that, you know, with the technology we have today, and perhaps they'll fix this down the road, I hope they do, that we will actually have lights that illuminate the scenery. Because the lights I put in here are much more realistic looking than the ones that were original. They had that stupid cone of light coming out of the light bulb. And that's not the way it works. It's not the way it looks. But hopefully they'll be able to make it so that the lights actually light up the ground and the scenery. Obviously, we have some defective railroad crossing guards there. The lights came on as the train was actually entering the intersection, and I don't think the barriers came down at all. That was probably my doing when I rearranged the track and stuff. I probably messed up the triggers and switches and stuff, so on my to-do list. It's been a couple of weeks since I posted a video, and that's because I've been sidetracked doing some other things. Number one, I had some hardware and software problems making this video, so this is my second attempt at getting that done. But I also have other passions in my computer sim world, and one of them is flying, so I've been getting back into Flight Simulator. Also, I've had Falcon 4.0 since it came out back in the 1990s, I think, but I was actually flying the F-16 at the time. I thought, you know, why would I want to fly a simulator of an F-16 when I'm actually flying the real thing? So it just sat there. Well, now it's been over 25 years, I think, since almost 30 years, I think, since I've flown the F-16. And when it first came out, it was my micropose. The graphics were really pixelated, not great. When I went back and looked at what they've done to it, I'm thinking, oh my God, it took my breath away. Everything looks so realistic. The switches were all accurate. The view out the front was accurate. When you're flying in formation, it looked accurate. The weapons were accurate. So I got motivated to go back and start reading my Dash 1s and try to remember how to fly the F-16 again. So that's another simulator that I've been interested in recently. And I also have a passion for automobile racing, so I've been playing Race Room and Assetto Corsa Competizione. So that has been distracting me, taking me a little bit away from Trainz. Not that I'm giving up on Trainz, but I am doing some other projects as well. And not projects, but just playing other games. I will try to keep these videos coming. And I don't post my flying videos or my racing videos. There's tons of them on the internet. They're probably much better than I could ever do. I don't think there'd be much of an interest for people watching my videos doing those things, but the railroad stuff seems to be pretty popular, so I'll continue to do that. So now he's cleared the yard. He's accelerating up to 40 miles an hour as he's departing to the east. And as he's accelerating out of here, I want to thank you guys for watching. Appreciate all the likes and thumbs up you guys have been giving me. I appreciate the comments. I enjoy talking to you guys about railroad stuff. You guys have enlightened me on a lot of things, and let me know what you're doing with the Tidewater Railroad and how you operate, and has these videos inspired you guys to get back into the railroading and what you want to do with your railroad. So yeah, let me know what you guys are doing. As always, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already. And I appreciate all the feedback I've gotten from you guys. So take care. We'll watch Dave's train disappear off into the east, and we'll see you guys on the next video. I will leave you with one last look at our yard filling up over here in Tidewater. Even though the light's not great, you can see it's a pretty busy place. So once again, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.